Shishimada's divine grace, founder of ISKCON, Abhay Charanadavinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shrimadbhagavatam Ki Jai, Shrimadbhagavatam Bhakti Jai. Their most merciful Lordship Shri Kunja Vihari Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath, Shri Baladeva Subhadra Ki Jai, Shri Nataji, Shri Balagopal Ki Jai, Shri Gornitai Ki Jai, Nitai Gopre. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the Lord Spirit of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Today being the day of Ekadashi, the 11th day after the full moon, we are celebrating. Moksha. Saphala. Oh yeah, because I didn't do it. I didn't move the marker. Saphala Ekadashi. And as is my custom, anyone that hears my class on Ekadashi book gets the entire benefit of keeping the Ekadashi perfectly by reciting the names, all the names of the Ekadashi. So we'll go through names, and these are the Vaishnava names. Utpana, Mokshana, Saphala, Putrada, Satila, Jaya, Vijaya, Amalaki, Papamochani, Kamala, Varutini, Mohini, Apara, Nirjal, Yogini, Padma, Kamika, Utrada, Aja, Parivartini, Indira, Papankush, Rama, Haribodini, Padmini, Parama. And today we are observing the day of Saphala Ekadashi. Yudhishthira Maharaj said, "O Shri Krishna, what is the name of the Ekadashi that occurs during the dark fortnight of the month of Pausha, December and January? How is it observed, and which deity is to be worshipped on that day? Please narrate this to me fully, O Janardhan." The Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, "O best of kings, because you desire to hear, I shall fully describe to you the glories of Paush Krishna Ekadashi. I do not become as pleased by sacrifice or charity as I do by my devotees' observance of a full fast on Ekadashi. To the best of one's ability, therefore, one should fast on Ekadashi, the day of Lord Hari. O Yudhishthira, I urge you to hear with undivided intelligence." That's the meaning of my name. Undivided intelligence, the glories of Paush Krishna Ekadashi, which falls on Dwadasi. As I explained previously, one should not differentiate among the many Ekadashis, O king. To benefit humanity at large, I shall now describe to you the process of observing Pausha Krishna Ekadashi. Pausha Krishna Ekadashi is also known as Saphala Ekadashi. On this sacred day, one should worship Lord Narayan. By the way, as this is spoken, Srila Prabhupada said we should worship Radha Krishna here in the form of Lakshmi Narayan. And we should worship them in the mood of worshiping Lakshmi Narayan. For he is its ruling deity. He rules this day, Lakshmi Narayan. One should follow the previous described method of fasting, just as among snakes, Sheshanag is the best. Among birds, Garuda is the best. Among sacrifices, the Ashwamedha Yajna is the best. Among rivers, Mother Ganga is the best. Among gods, Lord Vishnu is the best. And among two-legged beings, the Brahmins are the best. So among all fasting days, Ekadashi is the best. O foremost of kings, born in the Bharat dynasty, whoever strictly observes Ekadashi becomes very dear to me, and indeed worshipable by me in every way. Now listen as I describe the process for observing Saphala Ekadashi. On Saphala Ekadashi, my devotees should worship me by offering me fresh fruits, according to time, place, and circumstance, and by meditating on me as the auspicious Supreme Personality. Krishna Prabhu, you know what you did this morning? You helped in offering the fruits to Krishna And this, see, it's automatic. These processes we engage in Krishna consciousness automatically fulfill many of these observances without us even thinking about it. And by meditating on me as the all-auspicious Supreme Personality, he should offer me jambara fruit, pomegranate, betel, coconut, guava, nuts, cloves, mangoes, and different kinds of aromatic spices. And unfortunately, not a one was mentioned of the ones we offered. He should also offer me incense. Yes, we did that. And bright ghee lamps. Yes, we did that. For such an offering of lamps on Saphala Ekadashi is especially glorious. The devotee should try to stay awake all night. Now, please hear with undivided attention as I tell you how much merit one gets if he fasts and remains awake throughout the entire night. And I will include here, or if he chants the names of every Ekadashi on this day. O best of kings, there is no sacrifice or pilgrimage that yields merit equal to or better than the merit one gains by fasting on Saphala Ekadashi. I might add here, this is being said on every Ekadashi, and they all have equal merit. Such fasting, particularly if one can remain awake and alert all night long, bestows the same merit upon the faithful devotee as the performance of austerity for 5,000 years.
5,000.
You see why I do this now? O lion among kings, please hear the glorious history of this Ekadashi. Once there was a city called Shrimadbhagavatam, which was ruled by the saintly king Mahishmata. He had 4 sons, the eldest of whom, Lumpaka, always engaged in very sinful activities: illicit sex with the wives of others, gambling, continual association with known prostitutes. His evil deeds gradually reduced the wealth of his father, King Mahishmata. Lumpaka also became very critical of the demigods and Brahmins, and every day he would blaspheme Vaishnavas. At last, King Mahishmata, seeing the condition of his son, exiled him to the forest. Out of fear of the king, even compassionate relatives did not come to Lumpaka's defense. So angry was the king, and so sinful was Lumpaka. Bewildered in his exile, Lumpaka thought to himself, my father has sent me away. Even my kinsmen do not raise any objection. What should I do now? He schemed sinfully and thought, I'll sneak back to the city under cover of darkness and plunder its wealth. During the day, I'll stay in the forest. At night, I'll return to the city. So thinking, Lumpaka entered the dark forest. He killed many animals by day, and by night he stole valuable items from the city. The city dwellers apprehended him several times, but out of fear of the king, they left him alone. They thought that it must have been the sins of his previous birth that had made him lose his royal facilities and act so sinfully. Though a meat eater, Lumpaka would also eat fruits every day. He resided under an old banyan tree that happened to be very dear to Lord Vasudeva. Indeed, many worshipped it as the god of all the trees in the forest. In due course of time, while Lumpaka was doing so many sinful and condemnable activities, Saphala Ekadashi arrived. On the eve of Ekadashi, Lumpaka had to pass the entire night without sleep because of severe cold and his scanty bedclothes. That might happen here automatically also, the way things have been. The cold not only robbed him of all peace, but also almost killed him. By the time the sun rose, his teeth were chattering, and he was almost comatose. And all during the morning of that day, Ekadashi, he could not awaken from his stupor. When midday of Saphala Ekadashi arrived, the sinful Lampaka finally came to and managed to rise up from his place under the banyan tree. But with every step, he stumbled to the ground. Like a lame man, he walked slowly and hesitantly, suffering greatly from hunger and thirst in the middle of the jungle. So weak was Lampaka that he could not kill a single animal that day. Instead, he was reduced to collecting whatever fruits had fallen to the ground. By the time he returned to the banyan tree, the sun had set. Placing the fruits on the ground next to him, Lampaka began to cry. "Oh, woe is me! What should I do? Dear Father, what is to become of me? Oh, Shri Hari, please be merciful to me and accept these fruits." Again, he was forced to lie awake the whole night without sleep. But in the meantime, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Madhusudan, had become pleased with Lampaka's offering of the forest fruits, and he accepted them. Lampaka had unwittingly observed a full Ekadashi fast, and by the merit he reaped on that day, he regained his kingdom with no further obstacles. Listen, O Yudhisthira, to what happened to the son of King Mahishmata, when but a fragment of merit sprouted up within his heart. As the sun rose beautifully on the day following Ekadashi, a handsome horse approached Lampaka and stood next to him. At the same time, a voice suddenly spoke from out of the clear blue sky. "This horse is for you, Lampaka. Mount it and swiftly ride out to greet your family. O son of King Mahishmata, by the mercy of Lord Vasudeva and the strength of the merit you acquired by observing Saphala Ekadashi, your kingdom will be returned to you without any further hindrances. Such is the benefit you have gained by fasting on this auspicious day. Go now to your father and enjoy your rightful place in the dynasty." Upon hearing these celestial words, Lampaka mounted the horse and rode back to the city of Chambavati. By the merit he had accrued by fasting on Saphala Ekadashi, he had become a handsome prince once more and was able to absorb his mind in the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. In other words, he had become my pure devotee. Lampaka offered his father, King Mahishmata, his humble obeisances, and once more accepted his princely responsibilities. Seeing his son decorated with Vaishnava ornaments and tilak, King Mahishmata gave him the kingdom, and Lampaka ruled unopposed for many, many years. Whenever Ekadashi came, he worshipped the Supreme Lord with great devotion. And by the mercy of Sri Krishna, he obtained a beautiful wife and a fine son. In old age, Lampaka handed his kingdom over to his son, just as his own father, King Mahishmata, had handed it over to him, and then went into the forest to serve the Supreme Lord with controlled mind and senses. Purified of all material desire, he left his body and returned home, back to Godhead, attaining a place near the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. O Yudhisthira, one who approaches me as Lampaka did will become completely free of lamentation and anxiety. Indeed, anyone who properly observes this glorious Saphala Ekadashi, even if unknowingly, like Langpaka, like the devotees, some of them, will become famous in this world. He will become perfectly liberated at death and return to Vaikuntha. Of this, there is no doubt. This is Krishna saying, these are Krishna's words, the one who is in the control of what everybody gets at the end. Moreover, one who simply hears the glories of Saphala Ekadashi obtains the same merit derived by one who performs a Rajasuya Yajna. And at the very least, he goes to heaven, isn't that purpose? Thus ends the narration, the glories of Posha Krishna Ekadashi, or Saphala Ekadashi, from the Bhavishya Uttara Purana. Krishna Jai. That's a Saphala Ekadashi Jai. Has it left its responsibility?
God's good.
It has to perform Ekadashi. Observe the Ekadashi. It heard, needs to continue on that path. Where are we? So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tojayamadhiraya
Adujayamudire.
Nasta Prayasya Bhadreshu
Suprashu Abhadreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistaki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki.
Offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, who with the torchlight of knowledge has opened my darkened eyes, which were blinded by the darkness of ignorance. By regular attendance in classes on Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Such benefit we get from just taking part in the daily activities established by Srila Prabhupada as the functions of a devotee in the ISKCON movement. We are reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, most glorious literatures given to mankind for the guidance of all the inhabitants of the world, soon to be recognized by the inhabitants of the world as that most glorious literature for human beings to absorb the knowledge of. We're reading from Canto 1, Chapter 10, Text 25. 26. Text 26. Aho alam slagyatamam yado kulam. Aho alam slagyatamam yado kulam. Aho alam punyatamam madhor vanam Aho alam punyatamam madorvanam.
Aho alam punyatamam madurvanam.
Yad
Yad
esa
Esha
pumsam
Pumsam
rishabha
Rishabha
shriya
Shriya
pati.
Pati
Yaresha pumsam rishabha shriya pati.
Yadesha Pumsam Rishabha Shriyapati
Swa
Swa
janmana
Janmana
chankramanina
Chankramanena
chanchati.
Chanchati
Swajanmana chankramenena chanchati.
Swajanmana Chankramanena Chanchati
Aho alam slagyatamam yadokulam.
Aho alam Slagyatamam Yadokulam
Aho alam punyatamam adorvanam.
Aho alam Punyatamam Madurvanam
Yaresha pumsam rishabha shriyapati.
Yadesha Pumsam Rishabha Shriyapati
Swajanmana chankratamanena chantati.
Swajanmana Chankramanena Chanchati
Aho alam slagyatamam yadokulam.
Aho alam Slagyatamam Yadokulam
Aho alam punyatamam adorvanam.
Aho alam Punyatamam Madurvanam
Yaresha pumsam rishabha shriyapati.
Yadesha Pumsam Rishabha Shriyapati
Swajanmana chankramanena chanchati.
Swajanmana Chankramanena Chanchati
Please, Jeff.
Aho alam Slagyatamam Yadokulam
Aho alam slagyatamam yadokulam.
Aho alam Punyatamam Madurvanam
Aho alam punyatamam adorvanam.
Yadesha Pumsam Rishabha Shriyapati
Yaresha pumsam rishabha shriyapati.
Swajanmana Chankramanena Chanchati
Swajanmana chankramanena chanchati.
Aho alam syagyatamam yadokulam.
Aho alam slagyatamam yadokulam.
Aho alam punyatamam adorvanam.
Aho alam punyatamam adorvanam.
Yadesha pumsam rishabha shriyapati.
Yaresha pumsam rishabha shriyapati.
Swajanmana chankramanena
Swajanmana chankramanena
chanchati.
chanchati. Can someone get that? What's going on with the sound? What is that?
Phone
Somebody's phone. I wish they would turn their phones off when they just leave it sitting like that. Okay. Aho, oh, alam, verily, slagyatamam,
Slagyatamam
supremely glorified,
Supremely glorified
Yadu
Yadu
of King Yadu,
of King Yadu
Kulam
Kulam
dynasty.
Dynasty
Aho,
Aho
oh, alam,
Alam
verily,
Verili
punyatamam,
Punyatamam
supremely virtuous,
Supremely virtuous
Madhovanam,
Madhovanam
the land of Mathura,
The land of Mathura
Yat,
Yat
because
Because
Esa,
Asia
this,
Dish
Pumsam,
Sham
of all living beings,
of all the living beings
Rishabha,
Rishabha
supreme leader,
Supreme Leader
Shriya,
Shriya
of the goddess of fortune,
of the Goddess of Fortune
Pati,
Pati
husband,
Husband
Swajanmana,
Swajanmana
by his appearance,
by his appearance
Chankramenena,
Chankramanena
by crawling,
crawling
Cha-anchati,
Cha-anchati
glories.
glories
Aho alam slagyatamam yadokalam, aho alam punyatamam adorvanam, yaresha pumsham rishabha shriyapati, swajanmana chankramanena chanchati. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhai Charanarinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai
Oh, how supremely glorified is the dynasty of King Yadu, and how virtuous is the land of Mathura, where the supreme leader of all living beings, the husband of the goddess of fortune, has taken his birth and wandered in his childhood. Please repeat. Oh, how supremely glorified.
Oh, how supremely glorified
Excuse me, is the dynasty of King Yadu.
is the dynasty of King Yadu.
And how virtuous
How virtuous
is the land of Mathura,
is the land of Mathura,
where the supreme leader
where the supreme leader
of all living beings,
all living beings,
the husband
the husband
of the goddess of fortune,
of the goddess of fortune,
has taken his birth
has taken his birth
and wandered in his childhood.
and wandered in his childhood.
Oh, how supremely glorified is the dynasty of King Yadu, and how virtuous is the land of Mathura, where the supreme leader of all living beings, the husband of the goddess of fortune, has taken his birth and wandered in his childhood. Purport by his divine grace, Abhaya Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. In the Bhagavad Gita, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, has expressively given a description of his transcendental appearance, disappearance, and activities. The Lord appears in a particular family or place by his inconceivable potency. He does not take his birth as a conditioned soul, quits his body and accepts another body. His birth is like the appearance and disappearance of the sun. The sun arises on the eastern horizon, but that does not mean that the eastern horizon is the parent of the sun. The sun is existent in every part of the solar system, but he becomes visible at a scheduled time, and so also becomes invisible at another scheduled time. Similarly, the Lord appears in this universe like the sun, and again leaves our sight at another time. He exists at all times and at every place, but by his causeless mercy, when he appears before us, we take it for granted that he has taken his birth. Anyone who can understand this truth in terms of the statements of revealed scriptures certainly becomes liberated just after quitting the present body. Liberation is obtainable after many births and after great endeavor in patience and perseverance, in knowledge and renunciation. Jai Shri Ganesh. Are they opening?
I'm opening.
Supposed to be open. Okay. Liberation is obtainable after many births and after great endeavor in patience and perseverance, in knowledge and renunciation. But simply by knowing in truth, Jai but simply by knowing in truth about the Lord's transcendental births and activities, one can get liberation at once. That is the verdict of the Bhagavad Gita. But those who are in the darkness of ignorance conclude that the Lord's birth and activities in the material world are similar to those of the ordinary living being. Such imperfect conclusions cannot give anyone liberation. His birth, therefore, in the family of King Yadu as the son of King Vasudeva, and his transfer into the family of Nanda Maharaj in the land of Mathura, are all transcendental arrangements made by the internal potency of the Lord. The fortunes of the Yadu dynasty and that of the inhabitants of the land of Mathura cannot be materially estimated. If simply by knowing the transcendental nature of the birth and activities of the Lord, one can get liberation easily, we can just imagine what is in store for those who actually enjoyed the company of the Lord in person, as a family member or as a neighbor. Not to speak of living in his house, cleaning his floor every day, offering him food every day. All those who were fortunate enough to associate with the Lord, the husband of the goddess of fortune, certainly obtained something more than what is known as liberation. Therefore, rightly, the dynasty and the land are both ever glorious by the grace of the Lord. Om Jnanatimidandasya Dhananjana Salakaya Chakshusumanitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. What a glorious revelation for us to understand the meaning behind the statement. When you go to Vrindavan, I was told by Dinabandhu Prabhu, and a marker here, oh, there's I was told by Dinabandhu Prabhu that when we come back to the Western countries, we should bring Vrindavan with us, right? And he's talking about the consciousness of Vrindavan. And just see, I was realizing in this purport how that Srila Prabhupada, by bringing the words of this knowledge of Krishna, the words out of Krishna's own mouth, as well as the understanding being given here in the verse about just simply knowing how Krishna came here and then how he left, gives the soul that knows that liberation. Because what is happening, just like Srila Prabhupada is explaining that just like we see the sun only part of the time, the sun's always there even though we're only seeing it part of the time. So just like Krishna is always taking part in pastimes everywhere, the earth gets to experience that from time to time. And so in the parts of time that we are explaining that these pastimes are going on, they're eternal pastimes and they're going on constantly. So, Srila Prabhupada has brought Vaikuntha to Detroit, Michigan.
Yes.
Srila Prabhupada brought Vaikuntha to LA. Srila Prabhupada brought Vaikuntha to New York, to Maine, now to Alaska, to Australia. Vaikuntha is meant, this planet is meant to be a means for the human beings on the planet who have developed into human beings to know that being a human being means to experience the consciousness now being offered by Srila Prabhupada, experienced by those who are living in the most glorious place to live, in the city of God, in the dwelling of God, in the home of God. We're living in Krishna's house. Those of us are living in this temple here. And so to speak, we are getting the opportunity of a life, of millions of lifetimes, the opportunity of millions of lifetimes by now being in the presence of the Supreme Person from whom everything emanates, from whom all knowledge originates, from whom all life originates, from whom every universe comes, from whose creative body it takes no more energy than it does for us to sweat, basically, or even just evaporate. You're sweating while you sit in just a single place like we're sitting. Your body is right now allowing liquids from the inside of it to be emitted into the atmosphere. And by that same amount of energy required to do that we are exerting, oh boy, right now, oh boy, I'm having a hard time emitting, right? No, it's not like that at all. It just happens automatically. So that's what's happening with Mahavishnu. The universes are being emanated in that same way. So, just like he and his, we don't say, I wouldn't say physical body, but his body as it is remains aloof in totality. For just like the sun is totally aloof from the earth. But we can feel the effects of it, our relationship to it. So what affects our experience of what we call weather, right? Our relationship to the sun, to a great extent. What is being revealed, every time I give class, I just wish I had a way to draw this on a board so that we can conceptualize in our minds. But now you have to draw it on your mind, in the drawing board of your mind, this huge globe. And on its inner surface, it is part of the Bhumandal. And in this universe is the biggest living area of the Bhumandal. And as such, it has contained within it, its surface, living beings that are the biggest human living entities in the whole universe. We don't even have the means of measuring the size of those bodies. And because those bodies are of that size, and not everyone there is necessarily working, we see by the stories being given to us, by the knowledge that Krishna himself has to manifest there in different various forms in order to keep the living entities who are there, whose purpose is to cause trouble to living entities. So as we've seen in the earth in history, that there are many evil people who have gained the ability to control huge populations of people and persuade them in their minds that they are justified to end the lives of other fellow human beings based on the fact that they have different ideas than we do. They have different belief systems than we do. They are following different precepts than we are following. And so in the minds of in the history, we see in the minds of those who have conquered and left their viewpoint of their history, that they all believe themselves as the conquerors to be superior. Human beings are being instructed by the scriptures not to have such a mood, not to have such a mind towards all that is. We should consider ourselves as subservient, in a subservient position to all that is, because none of it is ours to have as our own control of. We have to recognize who is in control of everything. And as servants, then, we can have responsibility and use what is there. In fact, utility is the principle, as Srila Prabhupada explains. We use everything in God's service because the perfect purpose of everything is for it to be used in God's service. But then we have to know what God's service is. And this is what all the armies of the world are believing themselves to be doing, or most of them. Some of them are atheistically determined to do away with belief in God altogether. So this is what we would actually call demonic. But then there are those who are having a perverted perspective of who they believe God to be. And this is just as dangerous as not having a perspective of God at all, or maybe even more so. More so. Because, see, if you're an atheist, thinking this is the only thing there is, you're going to try and get out of fighting, or killing, or destroying yourself. But if you're believing there's a God, then there are principles worth ending your life for. The principles are outliving us. I shouldn't say they're outliving us. They're outliving the time span we are spending developing the qualities that have been advised by the scriptures for human beings to develop since time immemorial. Krishna gives knowledge by word of mouth that contains within it the principles that will allow those who follow those principles to eventually enter his city of Mathura, his city of Dwarka. God, I said many times before, they opened Dwarka, got under the ocean now, right? And they opened one door in Dwarka that they found submerged in the ocean, and they found the equivalent of billions of dollars worth of jewels from opening one door. Srila Prabhupada is pointing out in this purport that all of Krishna's cities were loaded with valuable items. And see now, some excavation, archaeological research that's going on is coming to reveal that electricity is not new. These ancient civilizations of times past, it is revealed by the designs built into the walls. Replicas of those instruments used to produce electricity, when imitated and put together, they have found them to actually produce electricity. And they were used as heating elements and other such things to cook with. Even though we are thinking ourselves the most advanced society ever existed, and I say we, I mean the educators, the people who are only holding the most recent histories of the past 1,000 years, they are having that perverted idea of our civilization because they do not have the histories of Bhagavatam to know any higher way of people being governed, any higher person than who among them are electing one another as being the best. And they have no idea who God is and who actually is the best. I got the realization, which I was sharing with Ajahn, several of the devotees. It is said of Lord Brahma that in this age that we are in, he would not be worshipped. Then we chant Gayatri Mantra, which includes in it a worship of Lord Brahma. But we find in the manifestation of Brahma's life on the earth as Namacharya, Haridas Thakur, who reveals the truth of the fact that his entire day is spent chanting. That's what he does. So this is what Krishna is giving him the power, the ability to do in the position he's situated. he is affecting those in his immediate association with those mantras he is speaking, the same way that the physical activities of those on the inner surface of this universe are so huge. They can affect the activities on this planet. And they are also being controlled. Everyone in this universe has false egos except those incarnations of the Supreme Personality and those who Krishna has himself removed from false egos. But for the most part, life that is manifesting as a form of false egos, manifesting in this world for their own pleasure. But see, what Krishna is manifesting in these pastimes with the associates he brings from the spiritual world that we see as beginning and ending actually don't begin and end. They're eternal pastimes that are going on in the spiritual world continuously. So, as it's explained, we may see Krishna to have a manifestation here beginning and a manifestation as an ending. There is no beginning and ending. They are only actually taking part in the same kind of plays that they take part in the spiritual world. They manifest it here as what we see as a reality. And it's actually Lord Vishnu's dream. All of it is Lord Vishnu's dream that makes our reality. It is the excretion again of his own body that the universes are made up of and put into the order of. I'm sure just the same way the earth has to keep a certain distance from the sun for life to be supported. You can imagine that every universe as well has to be kept a certain distance from every other universe. These universes, we can imagine the power and force. We are living in one of the smallest universes there are. And as we look at the sun inside of it that supports all the life on the planet itself, at least, that we see on the planet Earth itself, that we see, even though it's also giving life to other planets that for the most part, human beings on the Earth don't realize even exist. This sun, we can hardly look at for just a few seconds without just burning the eyes out. And you can go blind from looking at the sun too long. And it is microscopic to the size of the universe, that outer coating of this huge planet that the universe is. The universe is like a planet as well, floating amongst billions and trillions and zillions, countless other universes, you know. Now, see, there are similarities between Mahavishnu emanating the universes and Mahavishnu within this universe who's emanating the planetary systems. There's similarities. They're both emanating places for living entities to live, right? For the living entities. But can you imagine how many living entities there are? If there are so many countless universes, how many living entities there are? Can't number how many living forms of life there are within this universe. The Bhagavatam gives us number of species, but how many souls are filling up 8 million species of life? And then 400,000 of human form. And there's just countless. And Krishna, with the intent of bringing as many souls with him as will come, as will make up their minds and make the determination to go back with Krishna. So now he's giving us that position to be in, to make up and determine in our hearts that we're going back with him. And that's the way he takes devotees back, is with their desire to go back. So what helps us to know a good reason to go back is knowing the conditions that are there, which are revealed, almost every verse revealing to us the glorious environmental situation and circumstances surrounding the nature of every city that Krishna has established on this planet. And then what to speak, they are backward reflections of what the spiritual world is, which has no beginning, no end. I'm running over the time allotted for class. Anybody have any questions, any realizations, any encouragement that you'd like to give to any members of the world that might be able to view this privilege that we have to see the sciences being performed for the benefit of humankind, presented on what we're calling the internet. It's not the internet, it's the extranet, the outer net. The internet is what is working inside as the communion with Krishna, with God, the supreme knowledge of all. We are made the same substance of, who wants to share his consciousness with us. That's what we just read from. The consciousness of God is known by the words of God. God speaks what he thinks. So we can know what God's thinking by what God's words have been spoken. And we can put those same thoughts in our minds. That's Krishna consciousness. What a glorious thing for God to do for human beings, to be able, even though by choice, we've come here by choice to get away from God. Most of us came here to get away from God. Now, by learning all the suffering we've been experiencing and where we want to turn back to God, and rather than turning us away, God is so kindly and mercifully left with us an account of him that we can take wholeheartedly, that he is saying that just by knowing about his appearance here is sufficient knowledge to get us back to him. Wow, that's very kind. There is no comparison to the kindness that can be found in that which God is wanting all mankind to be made aware of. That's why we got to go out and make this knowledge known to everybody. There's so much goodness to be found. There's so much a treasure to be found in the love and the knowledge that God wants to pour out to humanity at large. God wants to give us his own knowledge and completeness, to know him as he really is. And all we have to do is open up to that. Hear Bhagavatam every day. Read Bhagavad Gita every day. Read the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, the nectar of Lord Chaitanya's life. And then, with our hearts being filled with the knowledge of God, we come to the stage of developing love for that knowledge. And as we hear the pastimes over and over again, we develop love for the person that's giving us that knowledge, to know about him more and more, that knowledge of which brings us freedom from the control of the modes of material energy, which every other person that has not been freed by it believes the fulfilling of their heart's desires to satisfy the physical senses of their bodies. They believe that to be freedom and are calling that to be their rights, which is what eventually leads to bondage. and disease and death and old age. But harboring truth in our hearts as the most important, most valuable treasure to be had in the human form, and valuing that truth, we come to find that truth is a person to be loved, who is the source of love. But love cannot manifest without a reciprocate, just like a plug has to have an outlet to be plugged into. The soul has to know God, to be plugged into the energy of God, to know love of God. And then satisfaction will come, then happiness will come, that is of a true nature, that is of an eternal nature. We don't want giddiness. What does it say? Mirth is in the house of a fool. And you know, what a lot of people are considering to be that which gives enlivening happiness in the form of jokes. That's what mirth is. Mirth. Making fun of everything, right? When we look at Krishna pastimes, he makes fun of so many things in such a revealing way of God's own nature. He finds pleasure in so many things that become humorous to observe when he's stealing. God stealing from other human beings. Can you imagine the act? Or putting, I should say rather, he's not stealing because it's already his to begin with. But he puts into the minds of other human beings that he's stealing, that it's not his. And then in his, when he's about to be scolded, he's arguing that it's not good yogurt. It's so bad that even the monkeys won't eat it. But he's already fed them so much yogurt that they can't eat anymore anyway. This is Krishna. Wow. How would we have such wondrous pastimes to think about? We have little children that we see here. And it's glorious to hear the pure voices of children before they're contaminated with material desires, you know. They're just living life as it happens and thinking it's going to be eternally like that. They won't have a job they have to hold and work and slave for somebody else to become rich off of their efforts. They're all in that position, even the ones holding money. They're under the control of others as well. They're under the control of their mind, they're under the control of their wealth. Because wealth causes fear, the holding of wealth, fear, and the desire for more. It's not of the nature to offer satisfaction, wealth in and of itself. So better than the desire for the wealth is the realization of something that can be done in this planet with the energy that would be required by the wealth, that can leave a message that there is a supreme person who is giving a way out of the entirety of this universe into an eternal dwelling. And distribution of books somehow. You know, there's what they call the city commerce buildings in every single city. And what they do, they carry flyers for every business in the city. And then when they have concerts and things of that nature, these people know to go there and put their pamphlets. I bet there's not a city commerce in Michigan, all the cities in Michigan, that probably even has one flyer of the Fisher Mansion or of the Hare Krishna in Detroit. I would put it as the Fisher Mansion. Those flyers, you know, when they were printed, we got these purple flyers and it says the Fisherman. Those were printed in the 80s,
80s?
and we still have them.
Oh, Krishna.
Shravanananda had those designed and printed, and we're still giving them out today. This is about 80. I stopped distributing 86. So this was around between 83, 84, 85, he was having these printed. This was at the grand opening of the mansion. And see how many people he was expecting to have printed enough for us to have lasted. This more than 40 years later, we are still using the same pamphlets he had printed up at that time. Let's see. It's in Krishna's plan for every single soul in the universe to go back. And he's giving us the opportunity to take part in bringing some of them back. So, however we can, we've got to find a way to distribute these books, chant these names, give it to everybody. We glorious bliss of doing it. While we're engaged in the happiness and joy, taking prasadam, giving happiness to others, helping remove others from their days of sorrow and sadness. It's very sad when people come here having lost someone they love. They feel as though they lost someone they love. We have to remind them. People that are on the path to Krishna consciousness, and if they're not, if they know you, and you are on the path, then you got to become pure, and you bring them back to Krishna. Krishna is giving all the ways to do that. We see that over and over again. All these people that just observe these things that Krishna does, he brings back their relatives in many cases. It's just amazing what Krishna does to make allowance for human beings to get his benefits. He's wanting to give us of himself. He wants to give us everything he has. That's his nature. What do you want? He said. I'll give it to you. So, Shrimadbhagavatam, ki jai. Srila Prabhupada, ki jai. We are the most fortunate beings in the universe.
Thank you, Prabhu.
I will.